All right, so you've just covered chapter 6. Some of the key points that you have to make sure that you remember is one, how do we construct and how do we calculate inflation using the consumer price index approach? So, this whole idea that first we need to determine what's the basket of goods, then we need to determine certain weights to those goods because there's certain goods that you might consume on a monthly basis as an average consumer, but in very small doses, where there's other goods that you consume in larger quantities. And once you've established the goods, the quantities, then it's easy for you to take the prices for any of the years that you're interested in and calculate the cost of that basket. Once you've found the cost of that basket, you're able to compare year to year what has happened to the cost, and that increase in cost of that same exact basket, same goods, same quantities, how it changes is going to be our inflation calculation using the consumer price index approach. This is going to help us understand how everything becomes a little bit more expensive, and how later on we're going to talk about wages, how we want our wages to at least follow this inflation, or else some basket of goods or some quantities of goods that we used to be able to afford, we no longer can afford even though we're doing the same job as before. So that was really the big first chunk. Then we want to look at comparing, calculating inflation with the CPI or the GDP deflator approach. So CPI is really based on what's being consumed in the economy, whereas the GDP deflator is based on what's being produced in the country. And that production can change from year to year. But in both cases, we're really just trying to see, well, what's the change in price or value of that good over a certain time span to calculate what was the inflation over that same time span. But the big thing with the GDP deflator approach, it has to be something that could have been counted as part of GDP. So something that we produce in Canada. So bananas don't count as GDP deflator, but would count in the CPI approach. And then real and nominal interest rates, well, essentially real interest rates are just a nominal interest rate, which is what you typically see, minus the inflation. That gives you your real interest rate. And that's really what matters to determine how people decide to borrow money to buy a house or to do other things like that. Okay? Thank you very much.